Brett Perigo, tonight's second place finisher. Plenty of fans here, Brett, and a solid second place finish.
Yeah, I got to shout out the Turn 2 Terribles over there. They're all a bunch of good guys to hang out with, talk to. I really like them.
How are you doing tonight, man?
Hey, I'm talking here. You know who you're talking to? Macho Man! I'm on my way to Monday Night Raw.
How do I want to answer the second one?
Your choice.
It's a trap.
I feel like it is. I feel like he's setting up fights in the front stretch is what he's trying to do.
Speedway. We've got Devin Gordon with us
At Keen Motorsports Shop here with Kyle Keen.
Sitting here with Sean Keen. We're going to talk a little bit about racing history.
Yep. Monday, January 29th, 2024. We are the Turn 2 Terribles. Jimmy here with Jay-Z. Chris will be joining us a little bit later. He's going to be a little late. Tonight, we got an awesome show for you. A little bit of everything. We got our first late model guest tonight, Austin Berry, driver number 86 Super Late Model. We'll be bringing him on, learning about him. Probably going to learn a lot about late models. You know, I know some of you people out there, you guys want, you know, a little more diversity. Well, you're going to get it. So we'll find that out tonight. Jay-Z also got to go to Kody Hartlaub's shop over the weekend and got a little bit of an interview. So we'll take a look at that. And also we'll have Tony Sharp on, whose new podcast with our very own Chris will be starting on Wednesday, looking at the Sportsman division here in Pennsylvania. So that should be pretty interesting. As always, put your questions, comments in the chat. They'll be right here on the screen. If you got questions for Austin, got questions for anybody, you know, let us know. So Jay-Z, how you doing tonight?
I'm good, man. I'm excited about this one tonight. I was looking forward to it for sure. And you know, we kind of floated this idea, and I didn't get a hold of Austin until yesterday. I'm so glad his schedule allows to be able to chat with him. And I have a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions about this division, about the state of the kind of the state of the union in late models, some of the things I've wondered, and no way to know and hear it from a guy who's involved in it. So I hope you all enjoy this. And if we're not asking the stuff you want, please throw it in here, because there's something y'all want to know that we're not getting to. Listen, we're kind of dumb, so we're a little slow. So you can help us here. So if you have any questions for Austin and about his journey and what's going on, local, late model, national level, you might be able to provide some insight. So chime in, come in and hang out and have some fun.
Absolutely. Well, let's bring him in. Ladies and gentlemen, Austin Berry. Thank you, Austin, for joining us. How you doing tonight?
Not bad. How are you guys doing?
Very good, man. Very good. Hey, I appreciate you taking some time out. Probably top two scenery as far as background so far. I think I think where Kyle and Aunt Bay, I think we're in their shop, right? But they
Yeah.
they didn't give away any speed secrets on the camera, so Austin's just revealing all here. Hey, I appreciate you coming on, man. Got to know you a little bit the last couple of years, really from behind my camera, through Rich and Addicted to Dirt. Really never got to speak a whole lot with you, which probably is more my part, but I don't like to really bother people in the pits a whole lot. So I kind of wander by, say hi, and keep moving. So anyway, with that being said, I don't know a whole lot. I know Jimmy doesn't. We've watched you race, but don't know. Give us a little bit of your background, man. Like, growing up, were your family involved? How did you get into it to get here?
Yeah, I'm born and raised in Juniata County. I've lived my entire life 12 miles from Port Royal Speedway. So my grandparents lived in Port Royal right on Main Street. So as a kid going to the fair, going to the races, we never actually even parked at the Speedway. We'd park at my grandma and Pap's house and walk up the road to the races. So kind of from this area. I've always been from this area. When I was young, I begged my dad for years to get me a go-kart and to, let me start racing. And it took me forever to get him to agree to it. And the first time I actually raced, I think the only thing we owned was my shoes and the gloves I was wearing. Other than that, we borrowed everything else for me to run my first race in a go-kart at Little Greenwood, which I guess is now 7 Stars Speedway, where they race go-karts on Friday nights. So I got started there when I was 9 years old. Go-kart racing kind of really quickly progressed for me, and we kind of took go-kart racing to the next level. We traveled all over the East Coast. I raced from Florida to Alabama, out west into Illinois, up into New York, and we were running, anywhere from 70 to 90 races a year when we were running go-karts. So from that, I kind of had my eyes set, I think probably about like any young kid. I wanted to go race NASCAR and do that whole thing. So I made my transition over to asphalt. I actually ran asphalt Legends cars for a couple years. Got to test an asphalt late model a couple times. And while I was doing all that, I was still in high school. I actually got to do something pretty cool. For 2 summers, I worked at Turner Scott Motorsports, who fielded Camping World trucks and Nationwide cars. So a couple of the years that I was there, I think my second year there was when James Buescher won the Truck Series championship. I think that had been the year that Kyle Busch wrecked Rollin on the backstretch in Texas. So I got to work there at that shop for 2 summers. I was in high school, lived in North Carolina, for the summer by myself. And then kind of made the decision really late my senior year of high school that I was going to go to college. And after that, traveling to race the Legends car the way I was, because we were still traveling a lot to run it. Wasn't going to work no more. So we sold the Legends car, and I told Dad, so it's time to come back and race back home. So we, at that point in time, I was actually at a crossroads. We had always known Dylan Sisney, traveled up down the road with him racing go-karts, and actually went to Dylan's shop a couple times, helped him work on his sprint car, and we were trying to decide if we were going to go sprint car racing or late model racing, and obviously I decided to go late model racing. So that's kind of how we got to where we're at now.
And how long have you been in racing the local late model? What year did you kind of get into it here?
Well, I guess it would have been summer of 2014 was my first year running the late model. And it's my first year, but I think we only ran like maybe 5 or 6 races that year. We didn't run a whole lot. With me being in college and all that, it took until probably I would say June or July till we had the car ready and everything ready to go. And just getting going, it was obviously completely different from anything I've ever done. I actually think I'd probably been better off if I went from the go-kart straight to the late model and never even ran asphalt. So I tore some stuff up, crashed a lot of stuff getting started. So we didn't run a whole lot of races that first year. And then just kind of, the growing pains of learning, the big car late model stuff. Those next couple years, we didn't run a whole lot. So, I guess by the calendar date, I've been doing it for, 8 years, but I would say actual full seasons, maybe 6 or 7.
And through that journey, did you get were you in the 358 late models first and up to supers? Kind of how's that journey been for you? Because this year, I think I saw you run both divisions. So we'll get into that a little bit about how 2023 went. But is that kind of how you got going? Was it right to supers right away, or?
No, we threw ourselves straight to supers right away. So this summer I ran obviously we had a lot of issues this summer and didn't have a whole lot of luck. But this summer was actually the first time I ever ran a limited.
Wow.
I jumped in Devin Hart's limited one night to start a feature because I'd broke a motor. And there was a double feature that night, and I'd already qualified and had my starting spot. All I had to do was take the green to get my start money. And Devin's like, "Whoa, you can jump in my car and go out and take the green. Just throw your transponder in your pocket or whatever." So I got to make a couple laps in his car, but I barely fit in it. And so this year was actually the first time I truly raced a limited. So we went right into supers. Now it's kind of crazy how much the local super late model class has changed in the last 8 years. When we first started, my super late model motor was a steel block with aluminum heads, and it was only a 415 cubic inch motor. And we ran that for the first, I want to say, 8 or 10 races, and had an issue with it, and kind of realized like, hey, okay, we're going to have to upgrade our engine program if we're going to do this. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. And we've had that discussion a lot lately. Is we're going to continue down the super late model path, or maybe explore going to limiteds. And I think a lot of late model people know this, but coming from people that don't really know late models, when you're talking limiteds or supers, the only thing that is different is the motor and the fuel. Our shocks are the same, our tires are the same, the bodies are the same, everything's the exact same. So when it comes down to it, the cost is it's definitely different, but it's not I think as much as what everyone would think.
Well, and that's interesting.
Yeah, especially when you start at the purses. We raced for $4,000 to win at Port Royal on a Saturday night, and the limiteds are paying $1,500. So I think when we run 10th in the supers, I think that pays about the same, or maybe even a little better than running 3rd in the limiteds. And that limited class in the Port Royal on Saturday night's not a joke.
You're right, 100%. And that was going to kind of goes right into what I talked last week. If you watched it all, and listen, I don't think anybody watches, but we had Brad Strawser on, and I talked to him about the limited late model series a little bit. And I feel like the times that I've been up there and watched, there's not huge car counts. The supers would draw more cars. And he said, well, and I kind of was like, I didn't want to like point out like, hey, I don't think the car counts, but it was like, I just was wondering, you don't always see the premier headline division be the top car getter sometimes, right? You'll see legends will get more than 410s, or you'll see, this division might get more than something else, whatever. But, like going to that limited series, I have a buddy of mine who ran limiteds a couple years, and he jumped up to a super this past year. Very limited experience, went into the super. He said, but we had a motor. We had to get a motor. And he said, I could race more. I could have more options. We race for more money. Even if I do make features, I might as well just do it. So in your case, you're thinking about maybe doing the opposite. Would that just be the overall bottom line dollar amount and investment for the season until maybe you figure out what's down the road, or what's your thinking behind that?
It's just kind of been something we've kicked around because anyone that's kind of followed my career so far in the supers, our engine program has been something we've struggled with. We've struggled to get something that will compete, but then also has the durability to make a full season. And at the end of last year, we made a pretty good big commitment to rectify that problem, and had a stupid issue. I don't know what else to call it other than that, but. We're getting that motor fixed. What happened? We got extremely lucky. I won't deny that at all. And what the issue we had, it really didn't cost us any more than what we were expecting to get it fixed over the winter anyhow. So we had bought a motor off of Ross Robinson. There, I guess it would have been a couple weeks before the August Lucas race.
Yep.
He had come up to kind of get a tune-up race in, and he had reached out to me a couple weeks before that race, and we kind of scrambled between me and my dad and my mom and my wife and everyone. Even guys from the team all chipped in to, because we've eyed up a bunch of opportunities to step up our engine program and just never been able to make it work out. And when Ross called, it was kind of like, okay, we kind of got to make something happen, and it took our whole team and everyone chipped in, and we did what we could, to make it happen. And that's kind of the route we were going. But before that, we've had the conversations that just, are we going to keep running supers, or, are we going to go run limiteds? And it was something that my dad and I had entertained. So we started making some phone calls, and this has been, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago. And at that point in time, what I had in my super late model motor, granted, like I said, it wasn't exactly what we needed, but the motor we were running at the time that was pretty reliable, we were going to spend $6,000 to $10,000 more for a limited to go win. And that's kind of something my dad and I talked about. We were like, I don't want to call it stepping back, but if we were going to go race limiteds, we wanted to have the absolute best motor we could have. We didn't want to go buy something used like we were doing in the supers and kind of question what we had. So to go get, the top of the line limited late model motor at that point in time, we were going to be spending, like I said, $6,000 to $10,000 more than we had in our super stone. So it's just kind of, I think, all in where you're located, what tracks you have around and just what you want to do,
Yeah.
I think a lot of times the limited car counts at Port probably struggle a little bit because you have several other tracks in the area that run limiteds on a Saturday night, where anymore there's not too many tracks around that are running supers on a Saturday night. Hagerstown used to have a super late model division every Saturday night, and they don't. I think I looked at the schedule the other day. There's only 3 or 4 races there next year. Selinsgrove used to have every Saturday night super late model division. Now they're kind of making a little bit of a comeback, but it's still not every week. So with the limiteds, there's Clinton County, there's Baps, there's Selinsgrove, there's a bunch of different options those guys can go around.
Interesting. And that's kind of what Brad alluded to, is just the options on a Saturday night for the limiteds come up to Port, where they're like, well, if I go to one of these other 1, 2, 3, Port might be option 4, or whatever the case may be, unless it's a special show. So that makes a little bit of sense. And listen, if you want to be at Port Royal, like going to a limited, you're going to travel a little bit. Now it's not travel a lot, but you're going to, if you're mainly at home in Juniata County, right? If you go to a limited, you're going to have a handful of races limiteds every other weekend. If you want to race, you're going to be going an hour plus, versus that 15 minutes.
Yeah, and that's kind of the other thing that played into our decision a little bit. I think I'd have to fact check it, but I'm pretty sure last year, or 2 years ago, whenever it was, Port Royal upped their purse to $4,000 to win. They're either the highest paid weekly late model show in the country, or they're tied with Fairbury in Illinois.
Wow.
So, and we have typically 17 to 18 races there a year, where the limiteds typically have 11 or 12 on the schedule, but hell, 6 of them are before the end of April, and they lose 3/4 of them to rain. So if we go to limiteds, we're maybe only getting 6 or 7 shows a year at Port, and it's hard not to race there. I mean, not only is the place immaculate, it's a beautiful racetrack and an awesome facility, but it's literally a 12-minute drive from our shop. So it's hard to go race anywhere else when you have something like that close.
Is the option of trying to run maybe both, like start off with limited, try to pick and choose races with supers, is that an option on the table?
Yeah, we've tossed it around. And like I said, the only thing that would really prevent us from doing that at this point is the difference in fuel. I don't have a second car. We're only a 1-car team, so we would be changing fuel lines, fuel cell. Because in those supers, we're running on race gas, and the limiteds, they still run them on alcohol to make as much horsepower as they can. So the bladders and the fuel cells aren't compatible to go back and forth between alcohol and gas, 2 different ones. So now here at the end of the year, when we ran that limited, I borrowed a fuel cell, and we put all new fuel lines and switched a whole bunch of stuff around to do it. But if it was just pulling a motor and switching back and forth, we would entertain that. We would do that. But to changing fuel cells and fuel lines and pumps, and you're starting to get into just a little bit too much work.
Oh yeah.
So when you went and ran that limited race, any adjustment there? I mean, Port really well, late models, like you said, everything else is the same. But was there any adjustments on the speed of things, your maybe corner entry? Were there some differences there?
Yeah, so as far as the car, the setup changed a little, not much. The biggest thing with the limited was just, I don't know for sure, but I would imagine it's probably like, comparing a 358 to a 410, where the cars aren't set up a lot differently. You probably just keep we kept the limited freed up a little bit more than we would the super, just because you didn't have the horsepower. But as far as the driving, yeah, it was I don't want to say drastically different, but from that 2/3 of the straightaway down, is where I noticed the biggest difference. Now, of course, the back of the gas response, and that was a little bit different. The Port gets so slick that most of the time, the guy that wins the limited late model race turned fast on flats. He could have run in the top 10 in the supers. But the biggest difference I noticed is that 2/3 of the straightaway down point, like for the super, jumped in the corner, the limited just kind of ran flat to the end. And I caught myself a lot of times wanting to drive into the corner way too far and actually hurting myself because it's like, man, this thing, I'm going slow enough. I can just stay on the mat and haul this thing off in there and completely miss the corner.
So talk about the season a little bit and kind of walk us through 2023. We obviously know we talked about the motor issues there as the year went on and back and forth and some time off. But as the season got going there, how do you evaluate kind of when you had things up and running? How did the season go for you?
It wasn't a bad year. We had moments of speed. We kind of made some pretty big changes in our team in about halfway through 2021. We changed shock builders and kind of started getting on a little bit different program, and it picked us up a lot. And I actually got my first super late model win in 2021. And we kind of thought like, man, we've crested that that hill where we don't expect to win every week. Like, we're going to be racing in the top 10 every week. And then kind of with the way the late models are, we went into 2022 that we were a rule change with going from deck height to droop rule and how that changed the suspension, and we struggled for a while through that. And at the end of 2022, we kind of got going really good. We were on third in the Butch Reniger, and kind of I felt like we were back to where we were. Like, we were going to be a seventh or better car every week. And then we come into 2023, and now we have the new NLMT tire. It's like every year they keep throwing something new at us. So this year we were, I'm going to say, a 12th to an 8th place car all year. Like, we were right there at the back half of the top 10. We had moments where we were really fast. I mean, I should have won our super race out at Selinsgrove and kind of got tangled up with a lap car racing in the rubber, and Colby Fry got around me, and we run second in that. And we had an opportunity during late model speed week up in Clinton County to get a win, and kind of the same thing, racing through lap traffic. It just didn't work out. And started on the pole one night at Port, and just same thing with this new tire. It was like the first or second week that everyone was required to be on the new one, and we had no idea what to do, and we made the wrong choice and probably gave up, a good opportunity there too. So it wasn't a bad year. Like I said, we had moments we were good. Where I felt like we were consistently going to be racing for 7th to 5th. Now we were racing for, like I said, like 12th to 8th. We were right there at the backside of the top 10. And it just kind of, that's where we were. We got to put some work in. We made a bunch of changes this winter to get back to where we want to be.
Yeah, and actually one of the questions here, speed week for this season. I mean, I guess it's not early. I'm talking to the sprint car guys about what they're getting ready for, and I see your cars, it's getting put together and things are happening. Do you have the motor? It'll be back and ready to go for a season opener?
So I just talked to our engine builder on Saturday. Actually, the goal is to have it for that. He has had valves and parts ordered for weeks and weeks and weeks, if not months now. And he got everything but the valves, and he made a couple phone calls. He's like, hey, I forget what he said. I want to say it was like 12 or 14 weeks since I had these valves on order now. And he was like, hey, where are my valves? They're like, well, it's probably going to be March till you get them. And he's like, yeah, that ain't going to work. So we're kind of scrambling right now, trying to figure out what we're going to do there. But the intent is to be ready for the opener at Port Royal March. Typically I'm rip roaring, ready to go, all amped up. This year I may be the one that's sitting around hoping for snow.
Hey, listen, everything I keep saying, we might get it. So we're due. If this is every year that we're due, we're definitely due for it. So I'm setting the bar low in expectations when I see a race this year. We'll see what how far into March we get.
Yeah.
So beyond that, once you're up and running, go ahead.
Yes, that's what I was just going to say. Once we get into the year, then kind of like I said earlier, with Port being so close, it's hard for us not to race there. Like, my dad and I say every year we don't want to get into points racing. Like, I did that a lot when we were running go-karts and that is by far the most stressful thing you can ever do. even if you're running good, it's still like, and you're going to race at places you like, it's still extremely stressful. You feel 100% obligated, even though you'd be going anyhow, even if you weren't. It just changes it, and I don't know why. But we'll
You
probably
feel like
run
you're dragging your arm there, like you gotta be there.
you gotta be there. Yep. And if you typically showed up at 4:00, well, now we're in the top 2 in points. We got to be there at 3:30. Just everything. I don't know. It's how it goes. So.
It's because in the interviews, then you can tell everybody your crew works the hardest of anybody in the pits, right? Like,
even if they didn't, we're still going to say it.
That's right.
But yeah,
let me ask
we'll run there all year, and I have full intent of running late model speed week again. We had just kind of started to get our feet under us a little bit in the late model when that whole deal had ended before, and now that Jim Bernheisel's kind of picked that up and got that going again. As long as we have a car and a motor and I'm racing, we'll run that every year. I love doing that. I will save a week and a half of vacation for that every year. It's a blast. So I enjoy it. Till you get to the end of it, I've had enough. Good to have an off week.
I bet. I can only imagine. Jimmy, maybe we chase that this year. What do you think? Chase late models?
I've been saying that I want to get to some of those races. Obviously, I'm pretty close to Selinsgrove and Port Royal, definitely those, but I definitely want to try to get out to Clinton County. I remember watching that last year. That place is badass, man, just all around. And I can imagine in a late model, it's pretty crazy.
It's a blast. I love it. That racetrack's one of them. I wish that those guys had something, and they're tied. They can't do nothing. But I wish there's something those guys could do to change their pit area. Because if they could get a little bit nicer pit area, man, that place would be. I would beg them to run a weekly late model show on Friday nights to give us 2 places to go. I'm not saying I'd go every week, but I love going up there. It's something different, between Selinsgrove and Port Royal and Bedford and Hagerstown. A lot of the late model tracks we get to race on around here. It's all huge, big and fast and arrow, and and then you get up to Clinton County and they get some holes in the racetrack. It's got a little character, and there's no fence, nothing to rip the spoiler off of it. You can go up, and if you mess up, you just run off the racetrack and come back on it. It's fun. It's a different pace. I'm not gonna lie, I was ecstatic that they took one of the Bedford shows and added BAPS this year for Speed Week. It's still a fairly sized racetrack, but it'll get us on something a little bit different.
Yeah, you got those tight corners and everything. That should be interesting.
What day of the week is the BAPS race? Do you know what kind of? Is that a weekday? I'll have to look it up. That's 20 minutes from me.
Isn't that I think it's the last race of the Speed Week, isn't it, on a Sunday? I have to look.
Right. I think you're right.
Tyler. I think Tyler's in the chat. He's like the biggest late model, trans fender guy I know. He's gonna know. Tyler, when is the BAPS late model Speed Week show? What day of the week is it? So I want to know. There it is. Okay, it is on Sunday. So listen, Sunday, 20 minutes from me, buddy. I might have to attend that one.
Remember, we were down for that test last year.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Did you like drive? Did you like getting around there? Is that the first time you've been there?
Yeah, we used to get down there a good bit on Wednesdays and practice and stuff. I like running there. I run. Would have been 2017. It was the last year of Late Model Speed Week. Was the only race I ever ran down there, and I like that place.
Yeah, it's like a big small track. Long straightaways and the corners are unique, and it tends to put on a good race. Now I haven't seen a lot of late model races there recently. I don't know if it changed with the wall in 1 and 2 versus the berm and the tire. If that would have changed for late models, I assume a little bit, but I haven't seen a late model race there in forever. I think every time the sprint car's there, it's either like some sort of another wing division or it's a modified show. They always bring some sort of modified. So
and they used to have. I'm trying to think. Is it the Smokey Fry Memorial at the end of the? Is it Smokey Fry?
That sounds right.
It's something Fry Memorial at the end of the year. And that used to be a super show, and it's now limited. So.
And I know BAPS does run limited pretty much weekly, so that's probably why they don't bring them back on a Sunday with 410. So that checks out. It makes sense to me. Like a couple things you said bring up. Like I feel like I could talk to you for hours. But I'll go to the chat first because we asked them to be here. So prefer Hoosier, American Racer. Do you have a preference? Have you tried them all? What are your thoughts, if any?
So right now we're going to
don't get yourself in trouble. If that don't get in trouble here if you have any allegiance.
I'm going to get myself in trouble. So at the beginning of the year, I'm going to start on Hoosiers. Now, American racers may not be out of the question. Last year I tried them, but it was a new kind of, I don't know what you want to call it. It was a new production line of tire they were working on, and friends of mine, they swear by them. They got their shop full of them that they're going to run this. I hated it. I swore because I tried it the first time. I was like, okay, we messed up. We did something wrong. And I put them on the second time, and it did the exact same thing. So I told my dad, I said, there will never be another one of them freaking tires loaded on the car again. So it was, but it may be an American racer, just a different kind. So I'm not going to say that it's out of the question, but right now we're going to be on Hoosiers.
It sounds like a good test night idea. Do some testing.
Yeah.
That's testing.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
It may be one of them things, and you've seen guys do it a lot last year, where I may put an American racer on just the right rear, or just on the right sides, or you know what I mean. So instead of going all the whole way around.
As a sprint car fan, I don't know what it's like to run nothing but one type of tire, a Hoosier. You know what I mean? Here, not only do you have an option at running different brands, but it sounds like different compounds.
Yeah, and that's what they tried to fix that when they went to this new NLMT, late model tire. They went to 4 compounds, and they kind of messed that up. And it's really only 3 compounds because it's a 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 being the softest, 4 being the hardest, but the ones are so damn soft that you literally can't run them. I mean, they're like running. It's like taking the softest go-kart tire you ever ran and prepping the crap out of it. It's just a gumball, and you can't run them. So,
what if it's for like a dash and you want to win the dash to make the feature? Are there rules that you have to run tires throughout a whole night when you sign in some of these big races or anything like that?
Some of the Lucas shows and that's what a lot of the Lucas Oil and late model shows. Like even right now down in Florida, those guys are running. The ones aren't even an option. It's a 2, 3, 4, and I think right now they're not even allowing the 4. They're making them run 2s the whole way around with the 3 option on the right rear only. So they're kind of tripping way down on it. Yeah, I mean Hoosier went from their late model line. I think they used to have 26 different tire compounds down to 4, which is now only 2 or 3. So
that is wild.
Well, yeah, I mean late models need more.
You'd think it'd make the cost go down, but instead it went up. Someone's got to explain.
Yeah, someone's going to figure that out, right? Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, you guys, those late models, you definitely need more setup options and more trick shit to figure out. I mean, it's such a primitive division,
Yeah, we need like one more set of holes in our 4-bar plates, and we need to add another shock on it somewhere, and hell, maybe we need to add a 3rd tire to the right side and run 5 wheels.
I do got to ask a question because I don't know. I know that there's different types of suspension and everything, but you always see those big ass billboards basically covering up the tire whenever you see somebody covering up when the tire's off. Is there really that much of a difference from car to car, like letting out setup secrets, or is it just kind of like habit at this point?
I think it's kind of habit at this point. I mean, I think back, I don't know, you talk to early, 20 teens, late, early 2000s, bar angles and stuff would have been a big deal. I don't think people are really messing with that a whole lot anymore. I mean, I know a lot of guys say if you're on a rocket, just weld them in the neutral position and never move them. We still play with it a little bit, not a lot. I mean, bar angles and stuff aren't our biggest adjustment, but the biggest thing with us nowadays is shocks and springs and multiple springs, and you may not know exactly what a guy's on, but if you look in there and his shock bag happens to be halfway peeled off, you can get an idea of where they're at, and that's kind of. But I think a lot of it's just habit, just to keep wandering eyes from even noticing you got an extra little mud cover in there. It's just a pride thing, I think, at this point.
Like, honestly, I giggle at it every time I walk through the pits, and I'm like, really? Like, listen, I know that there's a lot more right now. There's more innovation in late model world and creativity and people trying things, and and they do think they hit on something, so they want to keep it a secret. But I feel like it's just silly. I don't know why. And again, there may be some legitimacy to it, but I giggle at it every time. And I'm like, really, guy? You just covered up everything to run 13th. Like, come on, my dude. Really?
I've been a B main hero. Didn't even make it. and we'll come in and cover the car up. I don't know.
Blows my mind. Blows my mind, bro. I may never understand it. I guess I would have to be a part of it to understand it. And listen,
Here's the
I'm not going to be like,
here's the excuse I'll give you.
huh?
The excuse I'll give you is we put one of them foam knee pads at every corner. So when you kneel down to work on the car, it's there.
It's already there.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
I mean, that's a good excuse, to be honest. I mean, it is smart, but that's not why it's there.
At this point.
So and you talked about the arrow thing, and I do want to ask you about this because I feel like this is kind of like fallen onto my radar, whether it's been a thing forever or this has become like the thing and topic of the late model world in the last couple of years. But I'm watching these late model races, and you see arrow tight, arrow loose, and it feels like there's this NASCAR world where you can't even race behind a guy anymore, or you're gone. Like you have to manage your runs, and you got to do this. Where does it end? Because now you're seeing these pictures. I saw Justin Fiedler, right? He put up that one picture, and I didn't get to listen to the pod that day about arrow and they're twisted, and
Yeah.
I sent a picture of have you seen the Australian late model that somebody posted the other day? The thing is super square and straight. It looks cool, but you can tell there's no arrow trick stuff.
Yeah, the one that Bobby Pierce is running, the one in New
Yes.
Zealand. Yeah.
That to me is what a late model should look like, right? And again, I'm an idiot, so I don't know anything, but I was like, that looks like a late model, straight, it's square, go race the car.
Yeah.
How far, like, okay, two-part question with this, and I didn't plan this out, so again, I'm kind of dumb. But part one would be, does that trickle down to your level at Port Royal? And two, does it cost a ton of money to make your body look like that and to form it and shape it? Like, and would you even know without a wind tunnel what to do?
Yeah. So yes and yes. Yes to all. It is 100% trickled down to our level. I'm not going to say we have the most, aero critiqued car at Port Royal on a Saturday night, but I'm fortunate, and I have a lot of friends and a lot of good people to help me out. And you don't necessarily have to have a wind tunnel to start figuring out what some of these guys are doing. And there's us. See, people I don't think sometimes realize us racers. And I hate to say the term use, but use guys like you that take photos a ton. We will sit and study these guys' cars for hours. And you start seeing, well, this is moved a little bit, and that's manipulated, and you can tell something's done here. So you just you'll look and study and you'll go back 3 months worth of photos to find another picture of that car at that angle. It's just all on how much time you're willing to put in. And that's kind of what it boils down to at the cost. Like, and my dad was kind of giving me a raft of crap the other day because we put a whole new deck in the car again this winter, and I just had him do it last winter, and it's all just because of aero. I mean, there was nothing wrong with the deck that we had in the car last year. We manipulated it. We manipulated it for aero, and it worked. And then, I was down at Rocket to have our chassis worked on and to pick up some stuff, and was down in, and the whole Rocket One team got, all those guys were there. And I started looking at the cars that those guys were putting together, and I'm like, okay, my deck is not in my car like that. So I started asking some questions, and they were more than willing to share. So it's like, I didn't want to spend the $600 to put another deck in the car this year. But you look at the grand scheme of it, what's $600? I mean, $600 is a lot of money. I'm not trying to downplay that. But
grand scheme.
In this grand scheme of what we're spending, I mean, it's 2 tires. Right. It's 2 tires. And that arrow, as long as I go first week and blow the deck out of it, that aero advantage we worked on is there all year.
Right. But, okay. It's $600. I'm with you. 2 tires. But can you prove by staring at it in that shop, putting it on your car, you're going to be better?
No, I can't.
Right. And I think late model world right now is a lot of monkey see, monkey do. And that's okay because you're looking at the guy who's going fast and he could be doing stuff. And listen, there's games that are played. You know it and I know it. Guys will go do something, make it look different. Everybody else in the field has, and they're like, they don't do shit. Right. Yeah. Like all it's doing is creating this money spending war. And how do you know before you spend that money if it's going to have an effect on your car or not?
So the only thing I can say at this point is with some of the stuff that we changed this year is, I don't want to say it's I don't want to say it's common logic, but what we did to the deck of my car is just like pulling more wing angle in a sprint car. And so you can't tell me that's not going to make it go. You know what I mean? So
100%.
yeah. Some of the stuff like okay, so for example, that picture you were talking about was Devin Moran's car, and a buddy of mine at work and I were talking about it. And like they had to have literally spent hours with that car in the shop on dynamic load sticks in attitude because there's not a damn thing on that car that's straight. Like
No.
if the car is yawed into a dog leg position, the nose is running straight at you and the roof is straight at you. But everything else on the car is crooked as all get out. So to go to that extreme, you can't tell me that's faster than like what we're doing. But you're exactly right. It's monkey see, monkey do. Like guys play around with stuff like Davenport a couple years ago at Volusia. He rolled out this car that was built, they're going to unveil it at Volusia. And the left rear wheel opening was like 5 times bigger than you would ever cut a wheel opening. Like it was obnoxious. And he tried to say that, when we were cutting it out, I just kind of got off my mark and I just cut it out and put it on there. It's bullshit.
Yeah, okay.
A team like that, they couldn't get another sheet of sheet metal and cut out an electric quarter.
Right.
Come on. They were trying something, and the guys seen it, so they started doing it right away. There was a rule, as far as how big the wheel openings could be and stuff like that. But they were trying that for a big racetrack to let air out from underneath the car and stuff like that. But it's funny. I mean, you gotta draw a line somewhere. That's what we say. You can't.
Yeah. You can't outspend yourself and not gain anything, right? And not know if it does anything.
Yeah, and that's typically we put a brand new nose on the car every year. That's just something we do. You just do it. But nose pieces now are $500. Well, I wanted to do that deck more than I wanted to put a new nose on the car, so I'm not putting a new nose on. We're gonna sit in here with a razor blade and scrape all the, tire marks off of it and the rock chips, and we're gonna put the same nose back on it that I had on, for the second half of last year.
Hey, listen, there's something said about the labor versus the new part, right? I mean,
Correct.
you spend a little bit of time. That reminds me, that grassroots racing, weekend warrior, not making a living from it. It's nothing wrong with it. Ain't broke, don't fix it, don't replace it just because you can, right? So I can appreciate that. I mean, I know that's not where the world's going when you're talking about high level competitive dirt racing, especially super late model 410 world. But I think that's a lost art sometimes, right? Because if you can, you do, right? Like that's what we do in this world, and it goes on the shelf and or in the trailer as a backup. So, and actually, Jimmy, I posted a picture of that in our Discord. If you want to put that on the screen, what we're talking about, the Devin Moran late model. It was on Dirt Tracker Daily's Twitter. I put it in our Discord. If you want to put it on the screen, just to show what we were talking about there. For anybody watching,
look, I'm a late model guy to the core. Like, I think our cars look badass. I love them. Just like you think that New Zealand stock cars was what a late model should look like. They're cool, but I think ours look way better. I like Devin Moran, but that thing looks like crap. Like, there ain't even anything about it.
It doesn't look like a race car anymore.
I don't like it at all. Like, the left rear sail panel, it's like Hayes. Hayes and I work together. It's like him and I talk a lot about, aero stuff, and him and I probably have our bodies kind of manipulated a lot more than some other people at the races on a Saturday night. But it's because we sit and look at pictures and bounce ideas off of each other. And, that's about the only thing we'll share between one another.
That is insane.
We kind of manipulated my car a little bit like that last year, but nothing that bad. And Jeremy's actually got a really good picture of it at Port Royal from like the second week coming down the front stretch. It's kind of from that same angle, but.
See if I can find it. You see the second week of this season?
Yeah.
I think that might be more. I was at the entire week.
It was in the feature.
I'll see if I can try to find it. March 5th, maybe? Yeah, March 5th.
Yep.
Well, he's looking for that. Speaking of March, Tyler had a question. Will you be at the Williams Grove show at the end of March? Have you run Williams Grove?
I've been down there a couple times, and it went terribly. It did not go at all. So I'm going to say this year, no, we probably won't make it. Now, I like going down there because it is something that is completely different. Like, there's not another racetrack around that we get on that is anything like that place. We just kind of gotten very unfortunate when we've gone down there and it's been terrible weather and it's rained and the track was less than ideal, which they couldn't control. It's not their fault, but you know, you kind of get
Water table was high. It was probably their fault. So, okay, sorry, I couldn't help it.
So, but it just, yeah, we probably won't make it.
Speaking of aerodynamics, do you think the bridge ever affected aerodynamics for late model there?
No.
What?
Absolutely.
Where'd that come from?
Because everybody's been, well, I shouldn't say everybody, but I've heard that people saying, oh, the new bridge is going to completely affect the setups of all the sprint cars because of aerodynamics. And
yeah, guys are changing their setup in 1 and 2 for the backstretch and then stopping in 3 and 4 and changing it.
Jesus, Jimmy, I put that picture of his car in Discord there. I think it's the one. And you're right. I remember looking at this picture going, huh. I looked at it too. And again, I look at it and I see things, but I don't know what's going on. Like, you know,
it's
you
the back,
look at how sealed off the cars are sometimes and the back. Yeah.
That's the background on my computer. It works. That's how I know about that Toyota.
This one?
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not quite the same angle, but like you can see kind of some of the same stuff, you know, done. The left rear or the left front tire is completely covered up. You know, the roof's not, you know, in a normal location. You know, there's some stuff.
With some of that, there's things you're talking about. In the late model world, there aren't rules for these kind of things. I mean, obviously there isn't, right? You guys get teched, and especially if you're going to race at the high level, Lucas Oil, World Outlaw, whatever, maybe even at Port Royal, right? Like we talk about tech. 358 sprint cars. I talked to somebody this weekend. They haven't been teched in like 5 years at any racetrack ever in a 358 sprint car. But with the tech issues tech, and I've read some late model rules, and like I don't know half the shit they're talking about, but it looks very specific. You have that much freedom to go?
There's very specific rules about specific things, if that makes sense. Like I would say like the Ray Evernhams of NASCAR, if those guys would come to dirt late model racing, they would love it. They would absolutely love it because there's very specific rules to tech a very specific thing in this exact location. But the other 17 feet of the car between that, do what you want because we can't really do anything about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, you know, we have rules that like as far as how much dish can be in the front elephant ears, you know, the front fender cover, the floppers or elephant ears, whatever guys want to call them, how much taller that can be than the center of the hood. But then you get back onto the deck of the race car and there's no rule to check the depth of any of that until you get right behind the driver's seat. There's a rule that's allowed to be 5 inches there, but there's no rule for checking it 2 feet in front of the driver's seat. It can be 7 inches there, you know. I mean, no one's is because it's hard to build stuff that way. But that's what I'm saying. Those guys that love to, if you have time and just can build and play around, late models would be right up your alley because there's just all kinds of areas to play.
It's
around.
funny that you say that because looking at, you know, as we're talking about when we're looking at those pictures, that's what came to my mind was like the old Gen 4 NASCARs where they're coming straight down the straightaway, but it looks like they're cocked sideways because of how much. Yeah, that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, that's exactly what Dustin Fiedler said when he was talking about that car. He had a picture of, I think it was Kevin Harvick's, you know, old Twister, you know, NASCAR, you know, and how the spoilers all, you know, ducked out on the right side, you know, to get it out from behind the roof and, you know, all that. Yeah.
So, yeah, like it amazes me that way. And you talked about like Ray Evernham and things, and there has to be influence from some of that world crossing into, you know, Ricky Thornton and these top teams. There has to be some of that happening, right? Some of those kind of people with that level of ingenuity and creativity, that's happening, right?
100%. That's why I see Tyler said ask him what he thinks about pull down rigs. So, you know, Kevin Rumley, that's where he came from. He was a NASCAR engineer, and just his dad was always into dirt racing, and he kind of was traveling. I mean, from what I gather, he just kind of got fed up with that scene that's come back, and now we have full blown NASCAR technology in our sport. Like I just seen a TikTok the other day where there's a dirt late model pulled down on a pull down rig, full lap 7-post simulator. It's bouncing and shaking while it's in attitude. Someone was doing a complete full lap simulation. So it just, I mean, I'll be completely honest. I've had my car on a pull down rig. It happened. I'm a Saturday night racer, and my car has been on a pull down rig. So I mean, yeah, it's here. I hate it. I completely hate it. But
You got to
at the
keep
same
up a little
time,
bit, right?
You got to keep up with it.
You got to keep up with it. At the same time, like I don't like it, but you can go spend, and then just ballpark figures, but go spend $2,000 to $3,000 on a pull down rig, or you can go spend $4,000, $5,000, $8,000, $10,000 till you rent a racetrack, put laps on your motor, burn fuel, burn tires, to even try and figure out the same. And we used it just a lot for just like body profiles and stuff, trimming your nose off, trying to get that aero platform. That pull down rig, you hit the button, pull it into attitude, and you can see where you need to trim or where you trim too much. We can destroy two noses and spend thousands of dollars testing to try and figure out that same thing. So you can look at it from both ways. I don't like it, but I don't think you're not going to stop it.
Do you think the technology and innovation has made the racing in late models any better?
No, I don't. I don't even know, and there's probably going to be people that argue with me. I don't know as though the new rule packages have helped either. If anything, I think the new rule packages have made it worse. And I kind of compare it a lot to, the sprint car guys are talking a lot about wicker bills now, right, on the back of their wings. When we didn't have what they're calling the droop rule, where they're jacking our car up to the left rear tires just off the ground and measuring how high your spoiler is in the air. As much as you're willing to work on your stuff to get it to where we go around the racetrack as high as it can be, there was better racing. A guy could get he could start 10th and have his spoiler 2 inches higher in the air and had an advantage and could drive through the pack. Where now you give us a height rule and it's 51 inches, well, I'll guarantee you every damn car in that pit area is going to be somewhere between 50.5 and 51.25. Yeah. So all the spoilers are at the exact same height. So in a pack, that front car's got all the air and no one else has any.
So that's crazy to think about, because if you have all these options on tires to create a different performance advantage, disadvantage for yourself and your choice, why wouldn't you be able to choose some of that? Like, I don't understand why a tire manufacturer gives you options, or the sanctioning bodies allow you different options on tire, but you can't have the options on how you set your car up based on where you're starting and where you're running and let you decide. Yeah. What am I missing?
I don't know. I really
don't.
That was a
good question, then. That was a good question. That's a really good question. Okay. So, droop rule. I wanted to ask you about that. I wanted to ask you about the droop rule because I don't know shit about it. I don't even know what it means. You kind of explained it in a brief way there. But if you have all this freedom in the rule book, does the droop rule really matter if you can overcome it potentially with other things?
So that's one of the very specific areas that they have locked down really hard. Like, before we ran droop rule, we just had a duck height rule, which I hated that too, because that's a whole nother story. But like now with the droop rule, you have a set height you're allowed to be. They mandate the style bump stop we are allowed to run in our droop limiter, where before you could run stacked roller skate bumps, you could run a bump spring, you could run no bump. I mean, you could do whatever you wanted. Where now they've kind of put us in a box where everybody's got to be on a 1-inch squared off corner bump stop, only a single one. So it's just kind of like, it doesn't give you a lot of options. Before, like I said, I think on my car a couple years ago, we had doors, triple stacked 1-inch roller skates, where that would pull on the rear end really early, but that thing will stretch a lot further than that 1-inch, bump stop we have now will. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I probably would say in this case I'd have to agree with Tyler Erb. You know, just put four posts in the ground at the scales, and as long as we can drive through them, you're legal. You know, I know that I don't know what it would do to the cost. You know, you probably have to still try and keep shock and suspension stuff under control somehow. But I mean, if someone's willing to work on their stuff and get their spoiler an inch and a half higher in the air, they earned it. You know,
Go ahead, Jimmy. I saw you posted one there. Tyler asked a question.
Yeah,
about
I think that's what you were talking about. Was
Okay.
What's the easiest way to unhook the car, or would going back to the box bodies that the cars had in the early '90s be the solution?
I mean, that would probably work. You know, I think probably what we're dealing with now, if there was ever a generation of late model that was the closest thing to the old wedge cars, you know, we've kind of created that. You know, those cars still ran flat and they didn't have all the suspension travel we have, but they did it with their. Or now our bodies are built pretty flat, but with the suspension, we put them in a wedge. I truly think they could do some stuff with some suspension things that could unhook it. You know, like we got multiple shocks that are multiply stacked spring with, you know, stacked bump stops or stacked bump springs, and just make a rule that I'm only allowed to run a single spring. You know, like why do I got shocks on my car that got 3 and 4, you know, springs on them with bump stops, and you know, because that just makes the car plop and fall into that attitude. You put me on a single straight up spring, but now we got to learn about suspension again. You know, you're going to take some of the suspension travel out because I can't travel that single spring the way I can these stacked springs and stuff. So I think you could probably go there. You know, you're not going to be able to ramp up these, you know, crazy spring curves for all this load, you know, to just absolutely plant the right front tire and make it drive like an asphalt car. You know, you put me on you want to run that freaking bump rule, put it on the right front with a single spring. You know, and I think that could help a lot.
Well,
You know,
don't you think though, if they just make that change, let's say they do that, don't you think that would just put more emphasis on guys to manipulating the bodies to overcome that for aero?
You could be right, but I mean, it takes 10 sheets of sheet metal for me to build a body, and you figure on average they're around $100 a sheet. That really can't change that much. But right now, I got a ramp over my trailer that's completely stacked full of springs that are $130 a piece, and I have a machine in the cabinet at the front that is $8,500 that we load our shocks and springs on every week. We don't even use grain scales anymore. You know, it wasn't too long ago, guys were still scaling these things on grain scales to race them. That car right there that I have in the back, I've never had it on a set of scales, not once. I've never even checked what it weighs. I don't even know. We just set it up on that machine. So, like, you know, all that would go away. Now, I mean, that's the thing. I think no matter what you did, there's enough money being pumped into the sport now between, you know, streaming and just these touring series and just I mean, it's not a bad thing at all, I don't feel like, but
Right.
just the sheer size of some of these shows. You know, when Jonathan Davenport can go win $2 million in a year, there's going to be a car that's going to be willing to spend some money.
Yeah.
And I don't say
Yeah.
that that's bad, you know? So,
Yeah, keep opening up new doors for me to ask questions about, because where in God's name, where in the hell is all this money coming from in late models? Like, who the hell has all the money to be able to, for someone to win $2 million in a year? What corporate sponsors and businesses do I not know about that are late model fans to the point that they're dumping millions of dollars into this sport throughout the year across the country?
I don't know, man. I don't
In the middle
know.
of Alabama, middle of fucking nowhere, Alabama, for $50,000 to win. Where the hell is this money coming from?
Well, that's you know, like I kind of, you know, we've kind of started just to try and come up with new you know, monetary streams for ourselves. And I got big into you know, I don't have regular TV anymore. So I kind of have gotten big into YouTube and started following along with like Hunt the Front and those guys. And we kind of started kicking around and playing around with YouTube a little bit, trying to do our own little thing. But like, I mean, hell, those guys were running a 604 crate late model, and he won a $53,000 to win crate late model.
Insane.
It blows my mind. Like, where's the money coming from for the purses?
Like, and the tough part for me is like, you want to say like, oh man, that's badass, but then at the same time, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Because, well, I mean, seriously, you took a guy that, he's got a $50,000 super late model motor, and he's got, these badass rolling cars, but then they're taking those badass rolling cars that they would have run in supers and spending even more money on them to make them roll freer, make them lighter, put lower friction pumps on them, just to gain 2 horsepower in a crate class. So I don't know. What it boils down to is all of us racers are our own worst enemy. We're the one. I mean, we all bitch about the cost, but we're the ones that make it.
Yeah.
Because if you're telling me,
right?
Yeah, if you're telling me I can go spend $500 on something that's going to make my car 10 pounds lighter, or it's going to make my motor make another 5 horsepower, 10 horsepower, we'll spend it. We'll do it. We're not even going to think about it. We'll do it.
So you are your own worst enemy, because now you just talked about crates. How many freaking divisions of late models do we have until we don't have enough cars, or until something breaks and you're like, oh, that's dead? Why are there so many divisions? Now, not here. Around here, we're fairly lucky. But you go to some late model country, right? And I'm like, what the hell's the difference between a 604 and a 602 and a 707? I had to learn it's a part number. But why the hell is it a part number, first of all? Why does it go by that? And why are there so many?
I don't know. Honestly, in my opinion, and I could be completely wrong because where we're from, I don't know a whole lot about it, but someone started this crate thing trying to come up with an economy late model class, right? That's where it came from. But then someone realized they could make money from it.
All right.
So then
you manufacture.
So then they come out with a different version of it. So that was another way to make more money. And then they come out with another version of it. So then that was another. You know what I mean? It's the same damn thing over again. It just
gets fragmented. Then it gets fragmented and broken, and in the same area. And I've talked about that. Now it's a little different, but I've talked about that in this area with like our stock car classes, Thunder Card, Stream Stock, Street Stocks, this stock, that stock.
And
if the tracks would have gotten together and created some sort of unified rule, you could end up with 40 car fields around here. There's plenty of those kind of cars around here, but they broke it up. Like Lincoln Thunder Cars. If you had a Lincoln Thunder Car, you couldn't go to anywhere else unless you had different suspension, different tire. They couldn't run this A-frame. They couldn't run that frame, this shock, and it was a nightmare. Now it's getting a little better. You can run BAPS, Lincoln, Hagerstown, but I feel like that's those late model classes sometimes with the rules packages other than just motors where, is it going to end up that way? And I hope not.
When and the limiteds were kind of up until this year, the limiteds were getting to be the same way. The limited late models used to have to run, non-roller lifter, and had to be a flat tappet lifter and all that. But then, I think Hagerstown was the first one to start allowing roller lifters, and roller cams. Well, then Bedford allowed it. So you had a friend of mine, Devin Hart, last year was putting a roller limited late model motor in to go run at Hagerstown. Coming home, pulling that motor and putting his flat tappet motor in to go race the next night. He was changing motors back and forth. And it makes a little bit of a difference, but was it enough to go through all the work? I can't argue. He won a shit power race.
Well, right. He would have rather I'll order 2 motors and they're the same, right? Versus having to figure it out to do it. Now, listen, Devin's another addicted to dirt guy, and I took pictures of him the last couple of years and followed. He had a hell of a season, right? He had a hell of a season in the class, but that just seems silly to me, right? To go chase it and have to have all these different things in your shop and parts and maintenance and extras to just run a late model. That's just silly to me. So, yeah, right there, Tyler, 604 versus 602, the GM part number for the crates. One of the classes is crate steel, one is aluminum crate. Give me a freaking break.
Tyler can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're both steel block. But the 604 is just an aluminum intake and head.
Why? Because it's a whole division of it.
Well, it makes a little more horsepower.
You know what it almost sounds like to me, though? The difference between a 360 and a 358. Especially now.
Yeah, but except Pennsylvania's stupid and won't update their Figure it out. Figure it out, boys. Except we're dumb. That's us. That's self-induced stupidity. This sounds like manufacturer stupidity and somebody who goes, ooh, man, I can create. There's money in the sanctioning body thing. Let's create a new class. That's what it sounds like.
I think it would be different too if like you had these racetracks that like it was solely late models. You know what I mean? Because then your 602s would be like your entry division, because they're going to be your cheapest motor. They're typically run on 2-barrel carburetors, sometimes 4. I think Tyler would probably know better than me, just guessing off of what he does know so far. But
He's a late model guru. This guy, man, I'm telling you.
But then, so then like 604 would be your next step, because then you would go to aluminum heads. I think you pick up like another 50 to 80 horsepower. You're on a 4-barrel carburetor, and then, limiteds would be your next step, and then, supers would be your next step. But you don't go to these racetracks and they're just running late models. They'll also have, you're busting on me about the late model divisions, but I think a division that's even worse is the freaking modifieds. Like, what's an E mod, a B mod, a West mod?
Same thing. I care even less about them. Like, to be honest with you, I care even less about late models modifieds than late models. So I didn't bring that up. But listen, if they ended up dying because of their own stupidity, okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm okay. But yeah, Claire thinking, hey, listen, Claire, you're 100% right. Way more to a 360 than just heads. I'm with you. I know it is. There is, and there's a lot of investment made in 358s around here. It'll be a long time until they're forced to make a change. I'm with you. I understand that completely. With the manufacturers and engines and things, but kind of the idea, right? What we're talking about here. So, yeah, no, a 358 can't run with a good 360. I'm with you. It's pretty well known. But man, we've taken up so much of your time, dude. Jimmy, Chris, anything for him to finish up, so we can get him out of here?
I came in and listened to a lot of the first half before I got here. I was just educating myself, getting told.
So unfortunately, my wife is even vouch for it. If you guys want to sit here till like 11 o'clock and talk, I would be the one to do it. So you'll probably have to run me off. You can get on with your show.
Do this. We'll get you going here, because we don't want to spend all night either. These shows get long during racing season, let alone when we're not racing yet. So, tell us a little bit about who helps you out, get you up and down the road, man. Some of the sponsors that aren't on the car yet, obviously. Wait. Yeah. Before that, color scheme going to be the same this year? Because you have one of the better looking late models in the field.
It's not.
Rich didn't tell me this. Rich hasn't said a word. Did you even tell him yet?
Yeah, he knows, because the purple car. So real quick story, I promise. The purple car that we do, I only run that every 5 years. It's something that I did. So my grandfather kind of played a really big role in getting me started racing. He passed away in 2008 from pancreatic cancer. So at his 10-year anniversary of his death, that race year, I ran a purple car, because that's the embracement color for pancreatic cancer. So every 5 years now, this past year is the second time that we've run that purple car. So I only run that purple car every 5 years. So we won't do it again. It'll make its debut again in 2028, as long as we're still racing. It's going to go back closer to that, kind of back to the black and blue and yellow you can see on the wall back here. But we're trying to work with our graphics guys. I'm trying to figure out how to sneak like some blue chrome into it, or maybe some black chrome for the number. So we're going to get back to a very similar scheme, graphics wise, but we're going to try and splash it up a little bit.
Cool.
Oh, okay. All right. Anyway, thanks some sponsors, man. We'll get you out of here. Tell us who helps you up get up and down the road.
Yeah, I mean, one of my biggest supporters so far, and he's come on really big here for us in the last couple of years, has been SRI Performance and Stock Car Steel. Work with Randy Keene down in Mooresville and out of New York on that, and he's done a ton for me. Helping me with parts and just getting me stuff that can get us to the racetrack when I can't find it. He's drop shipped me stuff. I've called him on a Monday saying, "Hey man, I can't find this anywhere," and he'll drop ship me something and get me to the races that next week. Someone that's done a lot for me over the last couple of years, and I unfortunately he had some business opportunities that he had to take advantage of, but I still got to thank him. I'll thank him all this year, because he's done more for me than anybody in my racing career so far from a sponsorship standpoint. Be Tire Mart and Tire Pros. Greg and his guys down there. He had some business stuff that he needed to take care of this year, so he couldn't come back and be a primary partner for this coming year. But he's done enough for me. I'll thank him the rest of my career. Juniata Veterinary Clinic, a local vet here in our hometown. It's kind of my one and only hometown sponsor, with Michaela and everyone there. can't thank her enough. It's kind of cool to have, you know, a local small town business on our race car and, you know, and helping us out. VP Fuel is another big one for us. They help us out with our fuels. And we got a ton of product sponsors that are on board with us. Peterson Fluid System, Quick Car, Go Lithium, Swift Springs, Strange Oval, Quartermaster, BMI, Bell Racing. I'm sure I'm missing a couple, but you know, there's a ton of those guys that help us out with any of the parts and stuff that we need to get it done. And then my buddy Rich with A2D, he's done a ton for me, and you know, I wouldn't be able to do it without him.
Man, appreciate you so much, dude. Thanks for having. Listen, when we get Port Royal back this year, we'll come up, say hi, spend a little time.
Yeah,
Maybe we'll get to peek in wheel wells and learn a little bit here. We'll figure out what a spring looks like, you know, or something. I don't know.
Yeah, honestly, I've been getting a little bit more into the late models, and that was one thing I was trying to go into this next season, trying to, like I said, I was going to try to do a little bit more of the late model speed week and stuff, but you've started to pique my interest a little bit. So,
that just means Jimmy needs you to be selling merch so he can buy your shirts. That's what he's saying. That's all he's saying.
No, but I mean, I didn't realize how, I don't know, how crazy it kind of is, and how, you know, just very interesting. I really
you guys got the Port Royal, you got to take a look at it without you ever looking at a late model before. We let you stick your head up underneath the back of those cars and kind of, I mean, you already see how much the rear end moves around, but then all places that we can move it, it's pretty wild.
For sure. Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for your time, dude. We'll catch up to you here in the spring. Hopefully in March we'll see you at the racetrack.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate you guys having me, and it's been a blast. If you get any of them small T2T stickers, make sure you have to get me one. We'll get it on the car.
We know a guy.
You get out the Port Royal.
Right here. Thanks, buddy. Have a good one, man. Thank you so much.
You too.
Appreciate you, Austin.
Awesome interview. Like I said, definitely learned a lot there, and just got me a little more interested in the division, I gotta say.
Listen, I know there's innovation going on. I know there's things happening. I think if you look at a late model right now, the level of innovation and speed things are going there. I'm an idiot, but I think it's far surpassed where a sprint car is right now. Again, and there's smarter people than me in our crowd, hopefully listening. But I mean, you know, shocks are a big thing in the sprint car world, and you can have that argument if that even matters. But man, late models, it feels like it hasn't slowed down. It's just sped up the amount of innovation that can be done and the open box that they have, even when they feel like they're put in a box. So pretty cool stuff for sure.
Sure. Chris, I'm glad for you to join us. I know you're doing some other stuff. Glad that you got here.
Yeah,
man.
Good.
Glad you're here, buddy.
Good. I like Jimmy's shirt.
Yeah.
I don't know why he has the top button buttoned.
Why not?
Yeah, what's going on there?
You don't do that.
What's wrong with the top?
He went to church just now. Okay, he's in T2.
If I'm gonna wear polo, I'm gonna wear polo right. All right. I'm not gonna.
You're not though.
What are you talking about?
It's not how it works.
That's not how you do it.
You're not supposed to button up the top.
No, you're not wearing a tie.
There you go. Okay. And now you know what? Rebutton it. Never mind.
See?
Right. Did Jeremy even get his stuff, or is it all in your back of your car still?
No,
I couldn't remember. Things happen so fast.
I'm drinking my beverage out of my.
I had to get out of the back of Jimmy's Subaru in the rain.
Things happen so fast.
I almost forgot about it. Yeah, I was like, "Where are we going?" Oh, okay, we're leaving. Okay. Anyway, inside joke. Let's move on.
So, we're gonna get into your podcast here shortly. It looks like Tony won't be able to. He's trying to make it back on. He was in the background here as we were talking to Austin, but he's having some technical difficulties. But first, Jay-Z, you got to go and visit Kody Hartlaub's shop yesterday. Tell us a little bit about that before we play the video.
Yeah, listen, he's a friend of the show. Got to know Kody. Actually, I met Kody through iRacing. I met Kody Hartlaub through iRacing with some other people and some close friends of ours. And I followed his career a little bit and, was always a fan and kind of root for Kody. And, we've had him on the show last year and kind of his path. It's been a slow path, even though he's a young guy to get where he's going. And I had the opportunity last year to go take photos of his car before the season was over in their brand new shop. out in Hanover, and beautiful, clean shop, nice new car. Got to take the photos, and he invited me back this year to do the same thing. And they had a little get together for some sponsors before the season here, and got to meet some of his sponsors, J Fuels, which we'll see here, but take a few photos of the car again. And he's got a new scheme that he unveiled last night on Facebook and social media. So while I was there, I gathered some content, some of the car, and a little quick interview with Kody. And he's looking forward to getting the season going. He's ready to go. He's hyped up, and we're all just kind of sitting around and waiting. And what you'll see in the interview, he's going to have the car at the Racing Extravaganza this weekend in New York. So if you've never attended that show, highly recommend getting there, see some sprint cars. If you're in the area, it's hard to believe if you live around here you haven't seen it or been there, but get in there. Looking forward to getting in there this weekend sometime myself and check out all the new race cars.
Yeah.
So interesting. Before we do the video, I know Chris Frank has his car going to that same racing show because I talked to him tonight, and he has to letter it and get it all ready to go to the show. I'm like, buddy, you have 4 days.
A couple of days.
Running out of days there, buddy. Running out of days.
So yeah, he's there with one of his sponsors. I think Kody said it. They were on the stage.
Yes, right? Kody will be on the stage.
Cool. So, racing extravaganza weekend. Gonna be a good time. I'll be there Saturday. I think same. So let's get into the video. Here's Jay-Z with Kody.
Here with Kody Hartlaub at the shop in Hanover, Pennsylvania. Turn 2 Terribles. Obviously, we've got a new car here behind us. How's the all season been, and what are we looking for coming up?
It's been busy. We built a new car, got new motors coming. We rebuilt one of our other motors. Like I'm sure you saw, we're going full 410 racing this year, so it's going to be busy. It's been a busy off season, but it's kind of to be expected, and we'll be ready. We're going to be in the show, so I think we'll be ready.
Okay, so racing extravaganza this weekend. Anything before we hit the track after that then? Any practice sessions? Is there anything really before the icebreaker?
Nope, just the icebreaker. We'll probably go fire the car, which is a normal procedure, but other than that, nope. We'll just get, we got both cars pretty much ready to go. We're going to put the new car in the show and have all that, and then we'll switch motors and get the car that we finished the year with. We'll race with that car first.
And plan for the season, I know we talked a little bit earlier, Lincoln, try to run for points, we'll be there every week, and what else beyond that?
Lincoln for sure. Every week at Lincoln, we're going to hit all the BAPS races, and we do have a couple on the schedule for Williams Grove and Port, but kind of all depends on how things work out for me and for us, and the money situation and all that. But we're definitely going to run Lincoln full time, BAPS full time, and then like I said, we'll hit or miss a couple at the Grove and Port. So
perfect. Appreciate your time today. Having me over to check out the shop and the cars. Check out Kody this weekend and at the team at the Racing Extravaganza in York, Pennsylvania at the Toyota Arena, I believe it is called. And then Icebreaker in about a month after that. Not even a month at this point. We're getting down to it. The end of February. Look forward to seeing 95 out there. Thanks, Kody.
All right. Thank you, Jeremy.
Awesome interview, awesome video. Excited for Kody this year. I know we like we said, we've talked about him. He's been, on the come up here, and I really think he can do some damage.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do this year. People may disagree with me and my observation on it, but I feel like Kody's driving style and Troy Wagaman's driving style are very similar. They know how to run the bottom. They know how to run the top. It's not the crazy kamikaze, Devin Borden style, but they can make it work, right? It's not always flashy, but it's productive. They know how to take care of their equipment. They've come up on that path of like, man, I got to take care of this thing. I can't tear it up, and get good finishes and learn how to do that and learn how to pass cars. So, I think that can translate well into the 410. And then he has some laps and has some experience already. So, I'm excited. I think, like I said last week or the week before, I think he's a guy who handicaps to the front of a feature can lead some laps and contend for wins this year. You never know, right? You never
Yeah.
know. We've seen it happen at Lincoln before. I think it's difficult right now, but he's a guy I think that has the smarts and ability to get it done when the opportunity presents itself while he's still learning. So I'm excited.
I definitely think at a track like Lincoln, where he's very familiar at, has wins, it's done well there. Obviously you got the Freddie Raymer factor, but I think it's wide open there. I think there's a lot of different guys that can to win each week. You know what I mean? Obviously you got to beat Freddie because he's won like 20 races a year, but I definitely think it's wide open. So that should be interesting. Tyler says Kody will have 3 wins at Lincoln by the end of the year. Mark it down. I think I could see one at least.
I think Kody gets a Williams Grove win if he makes it there.
Ooh,
Because he ran good there last year, and if
Yeah.
he's there for a regular show, that field's smaller, and he's gonna boogie around there too. If he can get a good starting spot through his heat, you know how
Absolutely.
it is there.
Listen, I don't know. I feel like his shots at Lincoln over the Grove, right? Just experience, lap traffic, arrow in a 410 wing speed. I'll take
I
it.
tend
If
to
he-
I
if
tend
he
to
can
agree.
win
I
at
tend
the
to
Grove,
agree.
man,
Lincoln,
I'm partying Victory Lane with him. Trust me. I just feel like his experience and laps at Lincoln, because he went into this past season Williams Grove with lacking the laps, even at 358. He hasn't ran there a lot.
right?
He
And
gave
he's
away that
still
win. He felt like he gave away that win to Zach Newland just because of his inexperience. There was
right.
another one he should have won at Williams Grove this year, and he felt like he gave away because of experience. So you're right. I think the ability's there. I just don't know if the laps are there yet. Overall at Williams Grove. So and it's not easy for a rookie to win at Williams Grove.
No,
No
we
matter.
even saw like Billy Dietrich last year. He doesn't have a ton of laps at Williams Grove. Should have probably won a race at Williams Grove and didn't. And luckily for us, Troy won. But mistakes
Yeah.
happen, even guys that are
100%.
experienced like Billy Dietrich. So
Absolutely.
So awesome. Again, awesome video, JZ. That was well
Okay.
put together and an awesome job. And yeah, so we'll go from that and we'll close it out. Unfortunately, we're supposed to have Tony Sharper on the show. He was here. He's been having some issues with his laptop. So, Chris, it's on you to promote this thing. Wednesday night,
7
p.m.
7 p.m. Steve Wilbur will be with us. New show, Rollin podcast with myself and Tony Sharp. It's going to be streamed on all of the T2T, Turn 2 Terribles platforms, along with Sportsman Media, PA Dirt Track, and I think that's everything. Everywhere. We're going to have Steve on. We're going to talk all about his 8,000-year career. And as Tony said, he was born in 1880. He made sure to specify 1880. I'm like, dang, Tony.
I think he invented time, right?
That's what Tony Sharp told me, that Steve Wilbur did in fact invent time, and I want to ask about that. So I'm intrigued.
He was at the ribbon cutting for the first sunrise. I'm pretty sure.
That's basically facts that Tony told me. So get Steve's thoughts on that. But seriously, we're gonna give it Steve, and we're gonna hear a lot about his career and kind of what he's doing now with, running the wing car here and there, or more. I guess more than here and there, but also the wingless car, his own car with the wingless series that he's kind of the father of, and the sunrises. But looking forward to it. It's going to be starting out once a month, and then go from there. But Tony better be ready. I'm ready. 7 o'clock Wednesday.
Make sure you tune in. Like he said, it'll be on all P2T social media, as well as PA Dirt Track and Creatives, all their websites
and Super Sportsman Media.
So I'm excited to check this out. Look at us. We got Sportsman now. We got late model guys on now. We are expanding, and I love it. I'm so excited for this year.
It all started with Brett Perigo.
Yeah,
he was the first guy. He didn't have a wing because he's weird, and then now look at us.
Yeah,
I need to see sprint cars again, man. I'm with you. I'm feeling too open and open to new ideas in this new world of other race cars. I got to see some sprint cars again, man. No. Listen,
I'm ready for any type of racing.
Same, I am too. I want to hear in-person race cars.
Was a guy that I was looking forward to We talked about him before. We talked of our limited late model knowledge. He was a guy that I kind of recognized all year last year and would loosely follow when I would look at late model cars. So I was excited for that one. So I'm glad that was great. He did great. I was fully entertained in listening to his interview. So Steve Wilbur's gonna be wild though.
Steve Wilbur's gonna be nuts, man. We were talking about trying to get Steve on this show, but perfect for your deal and for that deal over there. And I'm gonna be
feel free to message or leave comments on this or just Sportsman Media. Any questions you want us to ask Steve Wilbur, because we are no holds barred. It's going down. Now, if Macho Man shows up, we got problems. But
well, that's what I was going to say. If this goes well, I want Billy Dietrich and Steve Wilbur on together, and we just sit in the background and let them have a show.
Let them talk.
I think
want them to just run it.
We just give them each a 6-pack, and we just watch them go.
So we do like a presidential debate forum. Like,
I like
those
that.
are the contestants. We're the host. We're not on camera. It's them. That's what I want to do. I'm in.
But we like Nate.
We got to moderate it though. Got to moderate it a little bit.
Nate or Chris Frank can be like the host of that show. And
Jesus Christ. We would never get to talk. People wouldn't even know we were here.
That's the point. We wouldn't want to be. Let them do it.
Awesome, man. I'm looking forward to it. And you said that's when? 2 days?
7 p.m. Wednesday.
7 p.m. on Wednesday.
January 31st.
Let's go. I'm going to be in the crowd. I'm making all the comments, buddy. I'm going to be here. I'm ready.
I do apparently have to be the Jeremy of the show, so I hope he's watching so he can sign my tits.
You need to be like 3 beers deep, by the way, by the time the show starts.
There's no way for me to do that. I have a really busy on Wednesday.
Well,
Wednesday actually might be my busiest day of the week.
I believe in you,
as
buddy.
It turns out. Hey, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. Could possibly go wrong.
So that Wednesday, racing extravaganza this weekend. I plan on trying to go there Saturday at least. I need to go see some race cars in person, even if they're not running.
Me and the kiddo are going there. So I don't know how long I'll be there because she likes race cars, but not when they're not moving. So when they're not moving and she can't do cartwheels, but definitely gonna be there. It sounds like some cool stuff with Kody.
Maybe if you win, you could pay people you ripped off. Okay.
Win what?
I don't know. I don't know if that was. I don't know who that's directed to, because we don't win anything.
Yeah. I don't even know who we would have ripped off. It's probably Jeremy hate mail.
Maybe put that in your back pocket for Wednesday, because I think that's what it's directed to. Kyle Bauer said, "Think Rex and I will be there Saturday. I might see you." I think that's the day I plan on. Yeah, it's my birthday this weekend, so I'm treating myself.
Party like you want to. You can cry if you want to. But the show is 10 o'clock to 9 on Saturday, and it's 4 to 9 on Friday, or 3 to 9.
Yeah. And then it's just those 2 days, right?
Just those 2 days.
Yep.
Hey Gary.
Hey Gary.
Hey Gary. Hey,
Kevin and Stacey,
hey buddy. Happy birthday to your daughter. It's her birthday today, because I know that because she's 15 and my daughter turns 15 tomorrow. They were born one day apart. So
happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Miss Gina. I did wish her a happy birthday because we were talking about she wished my daughter a happy birthday yesterday, and I was like, wait a minute. That's right. Y'all are like almost the same day. So happy birthday for sure. And looking forward to seeing you, Gary, man. We're getting close now, buddy. We're getting close.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's it. Racing extravaganza. We'll probably talk about that next week. And we'll see. We'll figure some things out for next week. Definitely check out Rollin Podcast on Wednesday. Thanks again, Austin Berry. That was one of my favorite interviews that we've ever had on the show, to be honest. Maybe it's recency bias, but I don't think it is. That was very interesting. Thanks, Tony Sharp. I know he was here. He was trying to get in here. Check him out on Wednesday. And, of course, thanks, Kody Hartlaub, for letting Jay-Z come in and do the interview and everything and give us a little insight on what his 2024 is looking like. And hopefully we'll be talking to him on here maybe after a win this year.
There, I got a photo you can exit us out with.
Oh, baby.
And we're out. You remember that one?
Yes.
There's your preview for Wednesday night, boys. Chris, good luck Wednesday, man. I'll be tuned in for sure. Looking forward to seeing the debut of the Sportsman podcast, man. Getting to learn a little bit more about that division and some of the drivers in it, man. Good luck, buddy.
Sure,
Looking
it's gonna be
forward
great.
to it.
Cannot wait.
And just like Steve here, thumbs up, guys. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. Check us out on Wednesday, and we'll see you guys next Monday as well.